The end of the first decade of professional wrestling is drawing near, and our company has a chance to end the 1920s with serious momentum thanks to some huge signings and global stars that just might propel us to the top of the wrestling industry. As the popularity of pro wrestling begins to rise, decisions become that much more crucial. Welcome back, everyone, to the Wrestling Association of the Mid-South on this local to global journey here in TEW IX thanks to the Effganic Genesis mod. We've got a big episode as we are coming off of a huge monumental show, the Frank Norris Tribute Show, the second one ever, and we crown 3 sets of new champions. The Tag Team Championships are introduced and crowned as the Wellington brothers shiced their way into a victory over some throwbacks, Jamari Meese and Yavraj Tunnel, making a one-off appearance back at the WHAM. Emilio Suarez, thanks to his sister Gabriela Suarez and then manager of Joel Cartwright, Emilio Suarez becomes the junior heavyweight champion after Gabriela turns her back on Joel Cartwright. The heavyweight championship sees a new holder as Friedrich Herzog defeated Neil Allman and Sebastian Morales in a triple threat match. The best show we've ever had, as well as the best match that we've ever had with that junior heavyweight championship. We are right at the doorstep of the amazing Grappling Spectacle 52, although there are a couple things that I want to address before getting into that show. And what we're going to do is just add the workaholic attribute to each of our Wellington boys, just to ramp up that challenge and make sure that we are featuring them. And what the workaholic attribute is going to do is just cause their morale to be negatively affected if they're left off of shows. So we added it here for Angus, as well as the money motivated attribute, as I think that's pretty fitting for a wealth oriented youngster. And we added the same for Chuck Wellington as well. And the last thing that we're going to do before getting into this next episode is we're going to check out Hermenegildo Ramirez. And we noticed that he walked out on Viva La Lucha, and it seemed to be over a pay dispute. Now, he's only $20 a show for us, and that is likely because he's got significantly less popularity in America than he does in Mexico. But he's still got actually 10 popularity, which is not terrible compared to a lot of the guys on our roster. So we're going to take a chance on one more guy that we have to pay for his travel, but I think this one might be another case where it's worth it, because Ramirez has got some seriously good stats. And even if you take a look at his last 3 matches that were on independent shows, he's still getting ratings of 39, 36, and 44, and that is with a less than stellar supporting cast. But if you go take a look at his last match in Viva La Lucha, he had an in-ring performance of 51. So, being that he is a free agent, we're going to take a chance on him. And we're just going to start it off with 3 months, give him the chance to relocate over to the Mid-South into America, and then hopefully just lock him up from there. We're going to make the offer and see what happens. And ahead of the show, we got Brian Hatcher and JP Cromwell lifting the spirits of the locker room. Although Woodrow Gunter turned up very late, he's already irritated and he does have a free spirit personality, so we're just going to give him a stern warning. Dean Grunge has gotten a lot of heat in the locker room. We're going to find him this time. He's unhappy at this action, but you got to get along with your coworkers, brother. Levi Andrews also turned up very late. We're going to find him, and it actually had a small positive impact on our movie star. And given that Levi Andrews doesn't have a whole lot of time left before he goes off onto his cinematic ventures and goes into his retirement, we're going to give him a rib, and it went down well with the rest of the locker room. With all of that out of the way, we are now ready to get started for the amazing Grappling Spectacle 52, the aftermath of the second edition of the Frank Norris Memorial Show, and we've got Bronson Fraley opening up the show, making his way to the ring, focused and stoic, opposed to the cocky swagger Fraley usually carries. Bronson Fraley voices his displeasure that he has been left off the match card for this evening, unhappy with his punishment for coming out on top against Black Bull at the Frank Norris Tribute Show. Fraley challenges any of the Wellingtons to come out and explain why he has no match this evening. As he awaited a response that would never come, Fraley's frustration would turn into a total meltdown, causing damage to anything he could get his hands on as he eventually made his way to the back. Small segment rating at 38 to get us started. We don't have a ton of guys that are money on the mic like Levi Andrews and Neil Allman, but Bronson Fraley does get us started. And our first match of the night has got Elijah Mays taking on Wayne Blankenship and coming out on top with a submission via a guillotine choke. Not a ton of story behind this one. We're just introducing Elijah Mays into the WHAM, and we've got him competing. We're not going to pass up the opportunity to have him on our match card, that's for sure. And we've only got an hour a month to get our guys in. So we see Elijah Mays pick up a nice, decisive victory over a formidable competitor in Wayne Blankenship. We get a segment rating of 42 overall, Elijah Mays with a 51 performance, and Wayne Blankenship at 34. Moving into the next segment, as you can see, Neil Allman has got the juice in these promo segments. Neil Allman makes his way to the ring to make a case for a rematch for the WHAM Heavyweight Championship, given his previous attempt was sabotaged. Neil Allman would call to Barnabas Wellington, encouraging him to do the right thing, and as the crowd showed clear support for Neil Allman, the former champion was interrupted. You'll see why I wanted to make these into two different segments, but we get a segment rating of 53 here, and Neil Allman obviously able to improvise when on his own, and he worked the crowd well. The reason we separated the two segments is because of course we got the Wellington dynasty now getting involved, and Neil Allman is a great performer. However, when all of them are involved, we go from a 52 to a 36. But anyway, Allman would be interrupted by Chuck and Angus Wellington, the new tag team champions, accompanied by Black Bull and Duke Wellington. Chuck would encourage Neil Allman to take his leave from the ring if he wants any kind of title shot in the future, hinting at the pull that he's got with his father, as Neil Allman's time is up and the time for the next match is now. Neil Allman would laugh at this threat, but he would oblige and make his way to the back. So we added some gimmicks to our Wellington boys because I guess we didn't have them before. I didn't even notice, honestly. Chuck Wellington, very good. Angus Wellington, poor. And Duke Wellington, adequate. That actually kind of makes sense that they would all be on different tiers. It just works out. Chuck Wellington, natural talent. Angus, spoiled heir. And Duke Wellington, black sheep. But despite taking the loss at the Frank Norris tribute show, Black Bull still rolling with the dynasty of the Wellington boys. So moving on to our next segment after this one got a 36. 29 match rating. And again, it's an uphill battle each time we got the Wellington boys competing, but things are getting a little bit better. We had Benson Sandy and Woodrow Gunter teaming up to take on the tag team champions, plus the eldest brother and Black Bull. And there's a lot to unpack here. Woodrow Gunter and Benson Sandy would basically fall apart. Benson Sandy is going through a change right now. He's going through a shift in personality and demeanor. This would ultimately lead to communication issues, allowing Chuck Wellington to pull a fast one on Woodrow Gunter, picking up a quick pinfall victory. Benson Sandy stood out in this one with an in-ring performance of 40, Woodrow Gunter at 36, Black Bull at 33, and then the Wellington boys, Duke at 25, Chuck at 23, and Angus at 12. And if I had the option, or if I was able to, this would have been for the tag team championships. They would have been on the line, but obviously in a 2-on-4 match, I cannot put the tag team titles on the line here. So all in all, segment rating of 29, but some good performances from the Benson Sandy Woodrow Gunter side, and more development from Benson Sandy. We've got a segment with Bronson Fraley. Following the victory for the Wellingtons, Bronson Fraley appears at the entrance curtain, though he does not come down nor engage with anyone before heading to the back, ultimately unseen. So just a little bit of continuation from Bronson Fraley's meltdown earlier, as he was clamoring for the Wellingtons to speak to him. They did not. He was unhappy and now he's watching them. Segment rating of 42. And a great match between two absolute gems here in the WHAM's junior heavyweight division, as we've got Albie Dewberry and Joe Cartwright. We're not afraid to put these guys head to head, as you can see. And the reason for that is because we would not see a definitive winner here. This match would ultimately come to a draw, segment rating of 47, but we gotta move on. Albie Dewberry at 52, Joe Cartwright at 56, and the reason this match came to a draw is not because of the definite lack of psychology on display, but because Emilio and Gabriela Suarez. We would see Emilio using his championship belt as a weapon, taking out both competitors during their match. After causing further damage and putting the two combatants down for good, Emilio and Gabriela Suarez would soak in the storm of boos from the crowd. Really poor angle rating here at 22, and it's more than likely because Emilio and Gabriela Suarez are not the most intimidating or menacing of characters, but they do show some aggressiveness here, taking out two of the top competitors for Emilio's Junior Heavyweight Championship. And our main event of the evening would see Friedrich Herzog defending his heavyweight championship against the former champion Sebastian Morales. and we would see Friedrich Herzog come out on top in this one with a great in-ring performance of 60, and while the match would ultimately have a clean finish, obviously it was not entirely clean given the presence of Blue Mage and JP Cromwell, now that you can see Friedrich Herzog has fully endowed himself as a member of Lights Camera Action. Segment rating 49 for Friedrich Herzog's first heavyweight championship defense, so that's pretty good. And the show will end with our final little bit here. Following Friedrich Herzog's victory and successful title defense, he is seen celebrating with Blue Mage and JP Cromwell. Levi Andrews would make a surprising appearance as well, clearly in rough shape following his match with Elijah Mays the last time we saw him. Levi Andrews would show clear support for Friedrich Herzog, in what seemed as though he was essentially handing over the reins of the faction to the heavyweight champion. We know Levi Andrews is leaving in a month. Whether he comes back from his movie, he's retiring anyway. So we don't know how much longer or to what extent we've got with Levi Andrews. We're going to try to bring him back. Friedrich Herzog seems to be taking on the leadership role of this faction now. We get a segment rating of 47. And all in all, an overall show rating of 49, continuing to top our best performances yet. This is the best show we've had, and it feels great. We had a really strong main event, as well as a really strong semi-main event, honestly. Elijah Mays being on the card, down at the bottom, really strengthened it as well, and then of course, our only match that wasn't a 40 or above was our match with the Wellington Dynasty. So we got a lot of good things cooking for us, and we're going to praise Woodrow Gunter and tell Friedrich Herzog that he did a great job. Our show ends up earning us $200, and we continue to make money with these shows, and that is a big deal. Our popularity stays at 24, but it does improve. And as you can see here, the feedback from our recent show has been awesome. The small company has outshone some of the bigger companies' recent efforts, and you love to see it. And as you can see here, our next show is in 34 days, and Sebastian Morales' contract expires in 31 days. So we are going to renegotiate with Sir Sebastian Morales, and we're going to bring him on for at least 2 more appearances and see what kind of develops with his character. And you can see here, Sebastian Morales is happy to accept a renewed contract, giving us 2 more appearances with the boy, and Hermenegildo Ramirez has also accepted his contract, and we've got another former member of Viva La Lucha making their way over to the WAM. And again, I hope that this man is going to relocate himself, and that we're not going to have to pay for his travel for too long. And you know, honestly, I'm just going to take the chance and see if he's going to take my own encouragement to have him move anyway. And he says he's happy to where he's at, and we're going to see if he changes his mind at all. But this guy really does have phenomenal abilities in the ring. He doesn't have the strongest performance, but I'm not too worried about that. And I think we'll be able to build his popularity in America, just like he built his popularity in Mexico, if we decide to keep him, considering we're only contracted him for 3 months to get him started. And we will not be seeing Levi Andrews for quite a while, as he is set to begin filming his movie, as well as a retirement in just 37 days. So will Levi Andrews ever compete in the WAM again? We'll have to find out. And without a whole lot to address, we are ready to get right into the next episode of the Amazing Grappling Spectacle. This is the 53rd edition, and there were a few positive effects to our morale that have since expired, so we are now eligible to do a hardline stance once more now that our backstage morale is overall poor. And we are, in fact, going to press on with a hardline stance and just hope somebody doesn't walk out of that company. As you can see here, we made the speech, nobody walked out. That is a good thing. We will get a small positive morale boost to our entire locker room because of it. And we are ready to get into the next event, and we continue our trend with no pre-show matches, and that is likely going to stay that way until we can turn a profit for the end of the month, because it seems that our monthly expenses seem to be what's taking us into the red, despite profiting each show. Our show opens up with Benson Sandy and Woodrow Gunter going one-on-one. If you remember last month, Benson Sandy and Woodrow Gunter had a bit of a falling out in a tag team match, and now this is their opportunity to put their differences aside and go mano a mano and see what they've got. And we would see Woodrow Gunter receive the victory after Benson Sandy gets himself disqualified after going into an attacking rage. Now, we'll say that Benson Sandy grabbed some kind of equipment from the ringside area, maybe a folding chair. It's not quite your typical steel chair, but he does grab some kind of furniture and begins going in on Woodrow Gunter, as Woodrow Gunter gets the upper hand as this match goes on. But ultimately, we would see Benson Sandy become more unhinged by the month, more ruthless as he goes on this shift in attitude. And ultimately, we would see an in-ring performance of 34 from Sandy, 30 from Gunter, and a segment rating of 32. And following this beatdown, Benson Sandy stands and takes in the damage he just dealt to Woodrow Gunter, sending chills throughout the audience as Sandy shows no remorse for his actions. Segment rating of 38 to lift up that match a little bit, and not a terrible way to get the show started. We then move into a tag team title match with Dean Grunge and Diego Berrigan teaming up to face our tag team champions, the Wellington Dynasty Boys. We cannot make a tag team title match that has got any kind of shenanigans stipulations to it to benefit the Wellington Boys. So anytime the tag team titles are on the line, they will just be going head up, 2-on-2, though in actuality that is not quite the case. But we would see, first of all, we would see some good in-ring performances from Dean Grunge at 35, Diego Berrigan down at 27, Chuck Wellington at 25, and then Angus Wellington way down there at 14. And Black Bull is their manager, so of course he gets some good work in at ringside. Now you would see here that the match descended into chaos, and it would fall apart. The referee would have to rule a no contest, and that is because Bronson Fraley would come out and make a big difference. Amongst a ton of commotion, and despite the Wellingtons' best efforts to get away, Bronson Fraley would strike Black Bull down and get his hands on Angus Wellington in the ring, dealing some serious damage and keeping the youngster down from a full Nelson slam. Bronson Fraley would stand before Angus's broken body, sending a message that he will not tolerate being outcast from the company. This is a continuation from Bronson Fraley's meltdown that we saw last month, as he again is not scheduled to be competing in a match this evening. And Bronson Fraley does not love that. He wants to be in hot pursuit of the heavyweight championship, and not being on the card is not going to get him there. So he's trying to get himself noticed by dealing some damage to the Wellington Boys, Barnabas's pride and joys, as well as disrupting this tag team title match. And as Bronson Fraley would make his way to the ring, Chuck, he dipped, Duke Wellington, he dipped, Black Bull stood up to Bronson Fraley, but Bronson Fraley quickly struck him down, making a clear avenue to get his hands on Angus Wellington. So segment rating of 30, these boys are not the best of actors, but the crowd heat is at white hot. And then we move on into a phenomenal match, segment rating of 44, in Hermenegildo's debut to the Wham, and they would put on a fantastic show. Ramirez out with an in-ring performance of 39, and Suarez at an in-ring performance of 46. Of course, Gabriela Suarez had some good work done ringside, and we get a nice bonus from Emilio benefiting from having a hot new move. However, Albie Dewberry and Joe Cartwright gain a measure of revenge as they crash the match, attacking Emilio Suarez much like he did to them last month. Dewberry and Cartwright would deal some damage to the junior heavyweight champion, but he and his sister would ultimately slither out of the ring area before too much damage could be done. So I did make a little bit of a goof in that last match. It was supposed to end due to a ref stoppage. I did not change the ending, and that's why we saw Emilio Suarez get that submission victory. Just roll with me here, and we're gonna assume that this match came to a no contest. But all in all, we would see another improvement of the ratings as this segment got a total rating of 49. And then in our main event, we have a huge 3-on-3 tag team match as Elijah Mays, Neil Allman, and Sebastian Morales team up to face Lights Camera Action, Friedrich Herzog, Blue Mage, and JP Cromwell. And Friedrich Herzog would actually pick up the pin over Sebastian Morales, planting a bit of an exclamation point after taking his title away from him and notching a successful title defense. Well done across the board here, to the exception of JP Cromwell, who had an in-ring performance of 21, Blue Mage down there at 30, but Friedrich Herzog had a 47, Sebastian Morales had a 47, Neil Allman had a 47, and Elijah Mays had a 48. Elijah Mays is hanging with the heavyweights here in this match. All in all, Lights Camera Action, this faction has been needing a victory, and they do get one here after an impressive performance from the heavyweight champion. So segment rating of 41 to end off the night. And all in all, our show rating gets a 41 as well. So Not the best show that we've ever had, but this is another strong showing, that's for sure. And we're going to praise Diego Berrigan and Hermenegildo Ramirez. Our financial report shows that we made a profit of $144 here and also made $120 off the merchandise, not too bad. Still at 24 popularity in the Mid-South, and we just want to see that state of the industry improve a little bit to allow us to grow in popularity just a little bit faster. That would really help our financial situation too, I think. And I just noticed that we have been jumped in size by Kinky Wrestling, and not only did they jump us, but they jumped Frank Norris Promotions as well. They've got a size of 28 popularity in their home region of Kensai. And this is the entire world fan base, so it is accurate. Frank Norris Promotions over at 27 in the Tri-State, and we are at 24 in the Mid-South. And obviously when it's the entire world, it's not just your highest popularity in your home region, but the home regions do paint a picture of what their spillover might look like. So that is a bit of a downer, but I mean, they've been killing it, honestly. In just about 2.5 years, they've ranked up to the 3rd biggest company in the world. However, they're only getting 34s, 36s, and 37s at their shows. So clearly, the Wham has got the better product, but it just does not have the band base quite yet. And I can't even have the excuse that the wrestling industry level is better than ours, because theirs is also weak, but rising. And before we get into the next event, we are going to use a character idea on Diego Berrigan to try to improve his morale once more. This one's a near certainty, hopefully it doesn't backfire. It does not. It's a success. He's got very warm momentum, but he's still angry. And that is because of the signing of El Espiritu, as he hates that man. And you can even see up here that we've taken multiple steps to try to alleviate this problem, but he is still angry. And if Benson Sandy is going to receive any kind of legitimate push or be recognized as a legitimate competitor, we've got to change his comedic gimmick. And that is really unfortunate because, as you can see here, his goofball gimmick is legendary. But we are going to have to give him a new gimmick, but we're actually going to wait until after the next event so we can use a gimmick idea to help propel his new gimmick, so to speak. And unfortunately, both of those gimmick ideas that we bought actually were big gambles, so we discarded both of them. So we just ended up with egg in our face, and Benson Sandy still has got the same gimmick as before. Christopher Hartwell failed to show up for a scheduled meeting with the road agent. We're going to fine him, though this did not have any major effect. Neil Allman nearly getting into a fight with Friedrich Herzog. We are going to pull the power play and we're going to fine them both. Friedrich Herzog pleased at this decision. Elijah Mays getting a lot of heat with the rest of the locker room. I'm just going to give him a slap on the wrist, and that's all we got. And we're going to hit Kenny Wiles with the rib. It didn't do anything. And with all of that out of the way, it's time for the next event. And I said we weren't going to do pre-show matches for a while, but I just had to get this one in because it felt like it's been a while since we've seen Christopher Hartwell, and I didn't want to exclude Woodrow Gunter from this show. So we just had a pre-show match with these two going one-on-one, and Woodrow Gunter, the heavyweight, would pick up the victory. We would see an in-ring performance of 43 from Gunter, 37 from Hartwell, and a segment rating of 38 as our night gets started. The first match of the night would be a fantastic match, as we would see an in-ring performance of 44 from Craig Bean, 38 from Bronson Fraley, and all in all we see a segment rating of 46. For Craig Bean to be outperforming Bronson Fraley, that is some superb work, and that is a good thing that we kept the man around, because really, I was not expecting this kind of segment rating from these two in this match here. But I'm certainly not going to turn it away, and we're going to move on. We see another segment rating of 46 as Friedrich Herzog is featured in a strongman performance, giving him the opportunity to flaunt his championship in front of the audience. JP Cromwell and Blue Mage are present, however Elijah Mays would interrupt the segment. Friedrich Herzog took exception to this act, and Elijah Mays did not back down and made it clear he wants a shot at the heavyweight championship. No microphones were present in this segment, but fans near the ring could hear Friedrich Herzog claim Elijah Mays is too small. Elijah Mays stood toe-to-toe with the much larger champion, until his henchman would create distance between the two. As a smug and confident Friedrich Herzog left the ring, JP Cromwell also began to make his way out, and then Elijah Mays would quickly snap Blue Mage into an unforgiving submission hold, showing the damage that he is capable of dealing. Elijah Mays would then quickly make haste and get his ass out of there, as Friedrich Herzog and JP Cromwell would turn around and then come to aid Blue Mage. So another great segment here, 46 overall, and we're just gonna keep on rolling. And the crowd is white hot, but the segment rating goes way down. And we would see Duke Wellington come away with the victory over Randy Edson, though Randy Edson would technically get disqualified after Bronson Fraley would run in and attack Duke Wellington. We've got a segment to unpack this match and this ending, but first we got to go over the numbers. We see Duke Wellington with an in-ring performance of 28, Randy Edson with an in-ring performance of 23, and funny enough, these two have great chemistry, and we might be using them for more pre-show matches in the future to get Duke Wellington some experience. However, Angus Wellington doing some good managerial work, and Randy Edson may have performed better had he not been rusty. But there is a segment that would continue on this little bit. Despite already competing earlier in the night, Bronson Fraley would continue his rage-filled mission to punish the Wellingtons as much as possible, showing his disdain for his exclusion from previous cards in the first place and the denial of an opportunity to regain the heavyweight championship. In his fit of rage, Fraley would once again breach the ring, beating through Black Bull and getting his hands on Duke Wellington, resulting in a victory via technicality, though Fraley would still make a huge statement by putting down the Wellington brother. And again, Angus Wellington, he would get his ass out of there. Chuck Wellington, he would get his ass out of there. And Duke Wellington would take the brunt, and Black Bull would not be able to successfully defend his clients. So Bronson Fraley just administering a bit more punishment to the Wellington boys. Segment rating at 35 from that last one, but our next match brings us a segment rating of 48. And we are really just hitting with our matches tonight so far. And we see Neil Allman and Sebastian Morales. This is more or less a #1 contenders match, and we would see Neil Allman come out on top, securing another championship opportunity. Sebastian Morales' in-ring performance of 52, matching that of Neil Allman. However, neither of these men have a high enough psychology to get through this match without any kind of penalty in that regard, but regardless, we would still see a segment rating of 48. And our main event of the evening, some junior heavyweight championship action. We would see Emilio Suarez defend his championship in the very first Fatal 4-Way in the history of the WHAM. And this is quite a star-studded match, as Emilio Suarez would defend against Albie Dewberry, Joel Cartwright, and Hermenegildo Ramirez. We wanted these guys to steal the show. That they did. We would see Joel Cartwright with an in-ring performance of 57, Dewberry at 55, Ramirez at 50, and Suarez at 49. And Emilio Suarez would come out of this one by the skin of his teeth, victorious, and still the junior heavyweight champion. This is his second defense and another show-stealing performance from the junior heavyweights. And that gives us our very first overall rating of 50. That is big. That is a big milestone, a major milestone reached here in this episode, thanks to a match that holds the highest rating in the history of the WHAM. And a big show as we end off the summer of 1929. And we're going to praise Hermenegildo Ramirez and Elijah Mays. We made $200 from this show, and we're still at 24 popularity in the Mid-South. What the hell? And another truly historic event for the Wrestling Association of the Mid-South is in the books, and I think this will be a great stopping point for this episode. And we've got the fall of 1929 as we approach the turn of the decade, 1930, to look forward to in the next couple of episodes. Huge shout out to the real ones on Patreon. You guys are awesome, and your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you to all the other Patreon members, and everyone else, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.